Hey everyone, welcome to The Zest, the official podcast of Orange Coast Magazine. I'm Kelsea Rae, and today's guest is a touring musician, producer, and arranger who has played in bands including Judah and the Lion, and also with Matt Kearney. Recently, he's played keys and bass for Ashlyn Rae Willson, also known as Ashe, and opened for Kelsea Ballerini, and will soon be opening for Gracie Abrams. Thank you so much for being here today, Carson Cody.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So just to give some background for our listeners, you and I went to high school together, and then we recently were reconnected because you're dating my sister-in-law, which I love. And this past Christmas, you guys came over to my family's house. And when I found out that you were going to be opening for Kelsea Ballerini and Gracie Abrams, I had to tell every single person that was there. And then I was like, you have to come on the podcast. So I'm excited to dive even deeper with you.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Thanks for having me. It's so much fun. Love doing this.
Of course. Well, to start at the beginning, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Huntington Beach. My parents' first house that I was born, came home to, was in Westminster. And then just a few years after that, we moved over to Huntington Beach. So
nice.
Yeah.
And then what were you like as a kid?
Distracted, very distracted, but kind of all over the place. Sometimes high energy, sometimes low energy, kind of just, my first grade teacher kind of called me out and was like, I think he has ADHD. And so sure enough, I went and saw a neurologist or whoever, diagnoses you officially. And they were like, yeah, definitely. And I was like, okay, cool. But I didn't really have the physical ADHD. So I wasn't running around and super hyperactive all the time. It was the mental. So I was just kind of it seemed like my head was in the clouds, but what was really happening is just, neurons firing at all speeds at all times. So but then, just loved being outside. I really enjoyed, music, of course, was a big thing. And, my dad taught me how to surf and snowboard as a kid. So kind of just all around, just mostly just enjoyed having fun,
Yeah. Do you remember the first instrument that you played or you learned to play?
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely piano. I remember seeing a girl in my class play piano, and I was just so taken by it. And I was just I want to do that. And I just remember coming home and being like, Mom, I want to play piano. Can we, how do I do that? And she was like, let's take lessons. And I was like, okay. So we had a teacher in our neighborhood, and she just, she taught me for my first year, and then I went somewhere else. So just kind of transitioned from there. But yeah, piano was the first.
Wow. How old were you?
I was 6 when I saw her play and when I wanted to take lessons. Yeah. So super young. There's plenty of, at some point I'll show you, there's plenty of photos of me as a kid, at the piano, just tiny with my big old glasses and gap teeth, just cheesing at the piano, just absolutely loving it.
That's so cool.
That was the first
one.
I
feel when I was growing up, I remember friends of mine having to take piano lessons and they would complain about it. That's cool that you were drawn to it and you actually wanted to do it.
Oh yeah. I mean, I did. I will say I complained about it for a while. She told me that one day I would thank her and that I have to tell everybody about this. So this is a perfect time. But my mom, no joke. They saw that I had something in me that was, there's something he has this ability, as a kid, we need to keep cultivating this because this seems, thank God she saw it. She was like, this seems important. And I would be woken up at 6 a.m. every day to go practice for 30 minutes before I got ready for school. For about a year that happened. And I think about a year or so later, finally, my mom recalls this story. It's hilarious, but she'll be like, the day that you looked at me and said, you know what? I think I actually like playing piano. I was like, thank God, because I am so tired of waking up at 6 a.m. and forcing me to sit down at this piano. But I was drawn to it. And then, obviously as a kid, it's once you have to start practicing and taking something seriously, it becomes less fun. But the better that I got at it, the more that I started noticing I'm doing something that not a lot of kids my age do or can do. It felt special. So yeah, but piano was the first love. Wow.
How many instruments can you play now?
I don't really know exactly. I haven't kept track, but it's if you hand it to me, I might be able to figure it out. I will say I've never really been able to nail violin or cello instruments, which is funny because I do string arrangements as a part of my job. don't know how to play a trumpet to save my life. Tried to teach myself saxophone, and I had my neighbors slamming on the ceiling, and I was like, sorry. So can't do any of those, but like most anything with like strings that you strum or, percussion wise, not too hard to pick up.
Wow.
Yeah. Most any like rock band instrument is usually what I tell people.
So are you just like drawn to an instrument, try to play it, see if you can, and then continue with it? Or how does that like work? Because that's so cool that you can just kind of pick something up and figure it out, or that you even want to.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, kind of. It's one of those things where like I just remember moments, just like I feel like any person that like is, has like an expertise in a craft. It's like you remember certain moments where it clicks for you and when you're like, oh, and where you just kind of figure it out, like the light bulb goes off. And for me, like, obviously I had to take guitar lessons. I got into guitar when I was about 10 because I started listening to rock music and I was like, nobody plays piano in rock bands. I need to learn how to play guitar so I can play cool music. Because at the time I was playing classical and I was like, I don't want to play classical music. And it's like, it's not cool when you're like a 10-year-old, but you start listening to like Switchfoot and Oasis and the Beatles and you're like, I want to play an electric guitar and, like really like nail that. So I started taking guitar lessons when I was 10, and then after a while, I was like, I want to play drums now because all my friends started playing guitar. And I was like, well, I'll just play whatever you guys aren't playing. And my mom knew a drummer like from when she was a kid that like went to an old church of ours. And so I like got into drum lessons with him for a summer. But even before that, I remember listening to a Switchfoot record just because like I would look at a drum kit and be like, I don't know how people do what with whatever it is. And I remember listening to Meant to Live when I was like 10 years old. And like, I heard the drum beat and I was like, oh, okay. And I started like separating like the pieces of the drums, like when they were playing in sweet sequence. And I was like, oh, it sounds like he's playing the kick drum on like the 1 and the 3. And it sounds like the snare drum is like that. And then he's hitting the cymbal like this. And like, I started kind of like playing along to it on this like rubber practice pad that I had. And I was like, I think that's how it is, but I'm going to have to wait until I'm at church next Sunday to like go play the drum kit when everybody's left church. And I tried it and I was like, I was right. That was it. Okay, cool. So like, I like kind of figured out like the very basics of like drumming, but still had to like go take lessons to like get better. And like, had to practice my paradiddles and like had to practice like rudiments and like had to, practice in different timing and had to practice reading and stuff. But yeah, drums are definitely something that I don't really like play. Like if someone's like, hey, do you play drums for a gig? It's like, absolutely not, because drumming takes like setting up a kit and like tuning the drums. And I'm like, I can't figure that out. That's one thing I'm just like, this is really hard. It might be something I could figure out if I had a kit like on me at all times, if I spent a lot of time with it. But we're in a little 1-bed apartment right now. So there's barely room for, a piano even. So the drums will come much, much later.
That's cool though. So it sounds like you just have this like kind of natural talent, which I did get to witness on Christmas. We were like, we're a big karaoke family and we had different songs on, and you can kind of just play along with the song and you nailed it every time. So is that just an innate ability that you had from when you were a kid? You just kind of hear something?
It's like very briefly sometimes. So because I grew up playing classical piano, I started reading music at a young age, and that's like kind of all that I knew for a while was just like reading music. And, I like the only way that I could learn a song was if somebody put a piece of sheet music in front of me and it was like, okay, cool. Now I can read this and learn it, whatever. It wasn't until I got into APA at Huntington Beach High School, that I really like actually had to start learning by ear. And there were some songs that, like I kind of picked up, but like still it was hard for me. It was like kind of using a different part of my brain. And I remember I got into, I'm not sure what it's called anymore. It was called CRAD at the time, which is Commercial Recording Arts Department. And then it changed to MMET, which is, I forget what the acronym is, but shout out Jamie Knight. He saw that I could play and was like, nobody really wants to play piano in here. So you have to come in here. We have like one other guy. And I was like, cool, I'm in. Let's go. Let's like, I'm down to like play piano in these rock bands. Like which is funny because I never really knew that you could play piano in a rock band at the time because I was listening to like only guitar music. But getting into that program, it was one of those things where I remember our first show, I was playing like this song with, a band that they put together, and there was like a little like solo piano section. And I was like, okay, like, do you guys have sheet music for that? And they were like, no, you just listen to it. And I was like, what? I'm like, you can just listen. I'm like, you can do that. And they're like, yeah, just like listen to it, take it slow. Like you'll get it. Like you'll be fine. Like we've heard you play it. I'm like, okay. And like now looking back on that solo, like I probably still remember it. It was like very, very easy. And it took me like 2.5 hours to like really get it. And it was maybe like a 20-second thing. And I was like, this is crazy. But the more that you do it, the more that you listen, the more that you recognize, and like it goes deeper than just like notes. It goes into like tones and sound. And it's a lot like it's kind of like a lot like being like a sommelier. It's like people that don't drink wine too often, they taste a red wine and they're just like, that's just a red wine. You have a sommelier come in and they're like, not only is that just a red wine, but I'm tasting this, and this out of it, which probably comes from this region. And they probably did it in this climate. They can tell you everything because they've just had so much of it and they've gotten used to like just the intricacies, like after, so much time spent with that. And so having so much time spent with just learning music by ear. And that's just kind of how you learn music now, especially in my job and everything. It's like, you have to learn by ear. It's just like you spend so much time with it that you just like kind of start to recognize things. I can like, so now instead of just like learning to recognize notes, it's like, I was just talking to Leah about this yesterday. I was like, the reason why I listen to like so much music that I don't like understand is because if I listen to like a classic rock record or whatever, like my brain just automatically goes to like into like a spiral of like analyzing like what kind of guitar, what kind of amp, what kind of pedals, like how are they recording it, what kind of drums, and like all these different aspects that like now I can just pick out from having been in studios for a while, and just like playing live for a while and just like trying different sounds and producing and all that stuff. It's like you just start to get like a taste for like what's around, just like a chef who like gets a taste for different ingredients. There's some people that are just like, oh, it's salt. And then chefs are like, there are actually like hundreds of different kinds of salts that can give you different kinds of flavors. And same kind of thing. You can be like, oh, it's just a piano. And it's like, well, there's so many different sounds that you can get from so many different types of pianos. And so the ear training just kind of comes with time, just like anything.
I've never thought of it like that. That's such an interesting way to look at it and makes me think of music in such a different way now.
Yeah.
But what was the first band that you were in though?
First band that I was in. Oh my God. I was in this like rock music summer camp when I was like, I think 13. It was like a 2-week long thing. And
literally thinking of the classic, movie.
Like, yeah, it kind of felt like it. It was funny. It was out in Costa Mesa. Fully forget the name of this place. But the basis of the camp was like, you come in, you write down what your main instrument is. You show up with your instrument and they like put you in groups and they organize a band based on your, like, they like asks you in like, they ask you in like the application, like, or just the form that you fill out before you go, like, what are your music tastes? Like, what do you gravitate towards? Like, what kind of music do you like playing? And then it's mostly rock music, but like, I think they like narrow it down to like subgenres of bands and stuff.
Whoa.
So I was in like a little band with like a bunch of dudes just playing guitar. And I was really into like the first Arctic Monkeys record at the time. And we called ourselves Barcode. I don't know where it came from, but it was one of those, it was just like a funny, like kids camp. They were like, you get into a band and you write a song. Okay. Now you have your song. What will your band name be? Here's a bunch of magazines to look through. And here's a list of like classic rock bands that, have names and the origin of their name. Like, Jay-Z called himself Jay-Z because it was, he lived off of the Jay-Z stop in Queens, and like, AC/DC like stood for something, and, all these bands that have like different meanings behind their name. Pearl Jam named their band after, it might've been Eddie Vedder's grandma or one of the members' grandmas. They would, after band practice, go like eat at his like grandma's house or something. And her name was Pearl, and she would always make them toast with jam. So they called themselves Pearl Jam. Yeah. That's so it's like, cute. So like they had all these things, and I don't know. I think I was literally looking through a magazine and I like was like, I can't find anything. And I turned to the back of it and I like saw a barcode, and I was like, what about Barcode? And they were like, okay. And I was just like, yeah, sure. So that was the like first band. But outside of camp, my first band didn't even have a name. It was just a couple friends of mine from like Huntington Beach that like all loved the same kind of music. And we just did a bunch of covers, and just, hung around and played music in their backyards and stuff. So it was very fun. Yeah.
Well, I did a super creepy deep dive on your Instagram and saw a post from 2016 and with, so you had been recording with a band called Lofty Stills. And in the post, you talked about some of the struggles that comes with being a musician without a label. Can you talk a bit about some of those challenges that you faced?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a subject that's like very near and dear to my heart, just because music is it's the longer that I spend in the world of music, the more that I see that some of the most talented people out there are some of the most unheard, because a lot of it's so saturated, like rock music blew up in the 60s and 70s, and then everybody could be in bands. And then beyond that, pop stars came to rise, and beyond that, the rock band came back. And, there's just so many like areas of music in which you can have success. And a lot of music now, and just a lot of entertainment now is really kind of based on nepotism. And it's like, this person's already here. If my kid wants to do it, they're first in line, and some of them are amazing. Like there are so many people that come from families that are in the entertainment industry who like really work hard and like prove their worth and who are just phenomenal. But because of the saturation of it, it leaves a lot of like really talented, just like wonderful artists that I like know and love and really believe in, kind of at like the back of the line in terms of like the way to get in. And most of these people that are so good at their art don't really have the business mind about it. They don't know where to start. They don't have the connections. A lot of making it in music is connections. It's connections. It's having money to be able to make the music that you want to make. And, you got the same kind of thing with any business. It's like, you have to spend money to make money. And there's sometimes not a lot of musical artists that have money to spend, which can be very difficult. Thank God for things like GoFundMe and Kickstarter and other platforms that can help certain musicians, like just reach out to a larger community and, just ask for funding and like kind of explain what they're doing. I think, that's been a great way for people to like kind of get done what they want to get done. But at the same time, I'm a firm believer in like, use the resources you have. Most of my favorite records, most of my favorite artists, they made records that were just with what was around them. And it's so easy to get lost in like, oh, well, if only I had this, then I would be able to make this. And I got lost in that myself. I was, I started working a full-time job when I initially moved to Nashville. And I was like, I'm going to like make a lot of money in this office job. And I'm going to just buy all the studio gear that I want. And then once I have that, then I'll start making music. And it never really stopped. I was like, oh, now I just want more studio gear. I didn't even start making it. So it's very catch-22. The music industry is a weird place. It's kind of like you can't really put a pin on like the exact trajectory for someone as you might be able to in more of a corporate world where it's like you start here, like, you work your way up, like you get a raise every couple of years. You maybe move up positions if you're doing well at your job. It's like music is very gray. But yeah, a lot of people face a lot of issues with just like not being able to do the art that they want to do or like the art that they want to make. And like multiple times I've had friends be like, I really want to do this for my album cover. I have the full vision in my head, but I do not have money to pay a photographer their normal rate, or the photographer that I'm thinking for this vision that I have, or, like plenty of people are like, I want to do like an orchestral thing like with this, but I don't have the money to pay like a string quartet and a studio for a day. It's expensive, and especially now that like there are so many like just large musicians out there who can pay exorbitant amounts of money. Like these studios have obviously gotten used to making that sort of cash. So it's definitely kind of like you have to be like really creative with what you have. And that can be really difficult. It can also be extremely fun and rewarding depending on like how you look at it. You kind of have to like dive back into this like childlike imagination of, like, what do we have? What can we play with here? And it's like, I found a stick in the park. This is now a magic wand. It's like you have to like tap into like your inner child a little bit and get there. But Lofty Stills, one of my good friends, Luke, he's making incredible music. He's even working on an album right now, and it's been a similar thing. It's like mastering is expensive. Finding album art is expensive, and for people who don't have label funding or a benefactor, it can be really difficult to make the art that you have in your mind, like come out with, just come out into reality. And as much as I can preach, like, well, just work with what you have. Sometimes you have an idea and you're like, this is it. This is the idea. This is what I want to put out there.
Yeah.
And it takes cash to do that because,
Right.
a lot of artists out there, like art, although it's a hobby for many, it is also a means of living for many. It's a career. And there are people that are out there being like, I have chosen to make this my life. I have chosen to, maybe not have the 401k, to like not have the guaranteed salary, to not have this, to not have that, because there's nothing else on this earth that I know that I was meant to do besides make music or make art. So therefore, it's going to cost money. Everything costs money. And it's like it's like a funny thing that like,
it's like a metaphor for life.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, exactly. Same kind of thing. Everything costs money, but it's especially difficult with art because it's like, you can't exactly like just immediately, like I can't like just buy a guitar and be like, cool, I'm going to start using this to make money. Like you could like a lawnmower, or
right. Yeah.
A weed whacker or something like that, something that's like more utilitarian. Like if I bought an entire like plumbing kit and I was like, I went to plumbing school, I know how to do this, I have all the tools, I could probably start working pretty shortly because everybody needs plumbing. And the weird thing, and I might get some flack for this, but not everybody needs music.
Right.
The same way that we need to like eat, the same way that we need to go to the bathroom, the same way that, we have like basic human needs. I personally believe like music is a necessity for living and for like vitality and for, just, like it's just, it feeds the soul rather than like the body. But there's a lot, but it's, again, it's also become easier to consume music with streaming services that are not paying musicians as much as they once were. And it's like, you put a record out in the 90s, early 2000s. And if you got a fan base to listen to your record, and if you got a label to be like, we want to put this out and pay you for it, it's like, you're off to the races. But now it's a good thing and a bad thing, because now there's people out there that are like, I've never known how to put out music before, but putting it onto a streaming service is so easy and I can get my music out there. Awesome. Like there are people out there that are like, finally, I can like show the world my music without having to like snail mail a CD or a tape or whatever. But at the same time, it's hard for artists that are like just starting to make music and who are like, this is the only way that I have money to put something out right now. And I'm not making any money back from it. So not having a benefactor can be extremely difficult for a lot of artists and musicians. And there's a lot of people out there that I really love and that I really believe in. And it's sometimes really hard to be like, hey, when's your album coming out? And they're like, I don't know. I can't afford it. Life is expensive right now and X, Y, and Z. And I'm sitting here going into my Dropbox, listening to this album on repeat. Cause I'm like, this is so good. When can it come out?
I feel like when I see people on TikTok that are so good, then I'm like, why don't you have something out? But, well, let's fast forward a bit to Judith and the Lion, because I remember when Take It All Back came out and the freaking chokehold it had on me and everyone in high school. But how did you become part of this band?
Judah and the Lion kind of happened for me after I started playing with Matt Kearney. They were on the same management for a while. And in 2020, I quit the band that I was touring with. I had a lot of hats that I was wearing in that band. And it just got to this point where I was like, I think I mostly want to be in writing and production. And also the pandemic was terrifying for being somebody who put all of their career eggs into a basket that requires you to have people around and in a small or large space all huddled together. And I was like, if this ever happens again, touring's not going to be lucrative. Like it's not going to be something that is going to be like a lucrative career for me to have. So I need something that I can do musically that is going to, pay my bills and like also be something in music. Cause there's just, again, like I said before, it's like, I don't see any other career for myself. Like this is it. Like I will not be doing anything else. As many times as I'm like, I'm quitting, I'm going to get a regular job. It's not actually going to happen, but I started doing that. And then I was kind of telling everybody that I knew, I'm like, I am saying peace to the touring world. Like I'm out. I'm going to go to California. You know, I'm going to do writing and production. Like Nashville is over for me. Like I don't want to tour anymore. And then I had some people kind of see the boundaries that I'd set and be like, hey, I know you're not touring anymore, but like, what if I had this gig for you that's like pretty good? And I was like, what do you mean by pretty good? And they're like, you know, the pay is great. You're going to be on a bus. It's pretty cushy. And I was like, now that sounds kind of nice. And I've kind of always dreamed about touring on a bus. And I was like, I should give this another shot. I'm going to try this out again. And so, I got hired by Matt Kearney, somebody who had been, you know, listening to since I was a kid. And I was like, oh yeah, of course I'll do this. Like I know these songs, like the vibe seems cool. He seems nice. I, you know, got to talk to him on the phone before we had our first rehearsals and whatnot, and hung out with them and played a couple shows. And I was like, I actually really do miss this. I do love this. I think I'm back. So my first tour with him, I got a text from my friend Claire Rex, who was managing Judah on the Line at the time. And she was like, hey, I see you're touring again. And I was like, I am. And she was like, what are you doing in the fall? And I'm like, oh, what do you have? Like, what's happening? And she's like, would you like to maybe play keys and bass for Judah on the Line? And I was like, yes. And at the time I was trying to like push my bass playing a little bit more because I love playing keys, but I occasionally have people ask me like, hey, do you want to play keys for my show at this like club? Like, can you bring your rig? I saw like your rig that you play with Matt Kearney. And at the time I was playing 4 keyboards on stage. Whoa. And my immediate reaction was like, no, I do not want to do that. I do not want to load my own gear into a club and have, you know, the front of house guy be like, oh, keys, we're going to turn him all the way down because he's just supplemental. Like he's not going to do anything. And I was just like, the risk is not worth the reward, but I do still want to say yes to my friends. Like I still want to say yes to gigs. So I started playing a lot more bass and then offering like, hey, I can probably not do keys, but I can do bass and like a little bit of keys if like that's cool. Like I could bring like 1 keyboard. I've like kind of compromised. I'm like, I will bring 1 keyboard if you just allow me to play bass. Cause you know, playing keys for a show is like keyboard, cables, pedals, keyboard, cables, pedals, keyboard, cables, pedals. Geez. And that's like a smaller rig for me. And then you can't even hear yourself until the sound guy like turns you up in the monitor when you're playing a small club type of vibe. So I was like, I want to do something that is a little bit easier for me to carry, but is still like background because I don't want to be like the center of attention like for my friends' gigs. So I was like, I'm going to pick up bass. I know how to play bass. I've played bass before. So I was like, I want to do that. So started playing bass for a couple friends' bands here and there. And so she had seen that and I was like, yes, thank you, Lord. Like we're playing bass, like let's get the bass career going. So, you know, can just play more bass. And like, you know, I really enjoy it. Bass or guitar, you know, you show up guitar, pedal board, that's it. You're done. Yeah, that's all so you have to bring. So nice. And so I'm like, I still want to play small shows. Like I still want to support my friends. Like I want to play music with my friends. Like I want to support new projects. Like, but I just can't bring a whole rig like that. But when I got asked to play keys and bass with Judah on the Line, I was like, this is perfect. Seems like fun. Let's see how it goes. And my first show with them was actually their first show back in like 3 years. Wow. And we were headlining a Bonnaroo stage and that was absolutely terrifying, but it was so much fun. I don't remember much of it. I think I just like blacked out in my station being like, I have to remember to play everything right. Oh my God, it's my first gig. But yeah, got connected with them that way. And like, we just became instantaneous friends. And so I love those guys so much. Yeah. They're just like some of the best people that you could ever meet.
Yeah. And now you're doing keys and bass for Ashe. And I didn't realize that her song, Moral of the Story, was in To All the Boys I Loved Before too. And it's like a big scene. It's like the main character, like walking down this hallway. And I like, when I saw that on TikTok, I was like, oh my God, I know exactly who this is. So how did you start working with her?
Yeah. So funny enough, on a Matt Kearney tour, the first one that I did actually, our opener, his name's Jordy Searcy, great songwriter, great musician, sweet guy. And he was doing like a very small configuration. And so I met his band, Jake and Scooter was playing drums and I just became homies with them, you know, like sweetest dudes ever. And I had Scooter just reach out to me basically being like, hey, like, do you have any gigs in January? Like we're playing this festival in Cancun. We're playing Noah Kahan's festival called Out of the Blue with this artist, Ashe. She's looking for a keys player. Would you want to like just fill in for that gig? And I was like, yeah, like that sounds awesome. Like this sounds amazing. And I looked at the lineup and I was like, these are like all the bands that I listen to. Like, I can't believe it. Like I get to like, that's one of the fun things about music is like, you get to go to a festival, you do your work, and then you just get to like see all these artists that you love. And it's like, it's very fun. So I was like, yes, I want that. And then I started thinking about it more. And, I got to this point last year where I like was touring. I think I was on tour like almost 8 months last year. And after, deciding to move to California, after Leah and I started dating, I was just like, I really want to spend more time at home. I really want to like make sure that I'm not like pigeonholing myself into a career that is one where I'm gone all the time. At some point, I want to have a family. Like at some point I want to be home more often. And it's like, if you keep doing the touring thing, people will keep calling you. And if you keep saying yes, people will keep calling you. And then you kind of get in this vicious cycle because it's hard to find work in music. And so you want to say yes to everything. Everybody that I know is like, say yes to every gig that you possibly can, which is true. And then I got to this point where I was like, I don't think I have to say yes to everything anymore. I want to start focusing on just like one artist and like kind of just like make sure that like my time is more spent doing what I want to do, because life is short and there are so many places that I haven't been. There are so many things that I haven't experienced, like that I just, I don't want to be gone for all the time. I've missed probably like 15 of my friends' weddings because of touring. And it's just like, I don't want to miss that anymore, So, so, we played Cancun and everything. And I was talking to Scooter and I was like, is this like considering me for like other stuff too? And he's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, I'll see where it goes. And management just kept asking me, are you available for this? Are you available for this? Are you available for this? And I was like, yes, across the board. This sounds great. So we just got connected that way. But
well, can you talk a bit about what people can look forward to for Gracie Abrams? And also if there's anything else that you would like to shout out that's coming up in the next year?
Yeah, absolutely. The tour with Gracie starts in May. Sadly, it will be in Australia. So if you are in Australia in May, come out if you can. It might be entirely sold out at this point.
Oh, wow. I bet. Honestly, yeah, true.
It's Gracie. I mean, she's massive and she's just so good. So, but that will be in May. And then after that, we do a US headlining tour. From the very end of May till like almost the last week of June. I would say come out to that as well, but the LA show has been sold out. So yeah, it is one of those things where I'm like, sorry. And it's like, I'm sorry, but also like, this is really good for us. So
exactly.
But also, make sure you come to the next one kind of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
That's about it. That's coming up right now. I've got like a few.
It's like a lot. It's so cool.
It's a lot. Yeah. There's some other like home music projects that I'm working on here and there.
Ooh, very exciting.
Nothing that I can like really announce right now because it hasn't really like some haven't been started, some haven't been finished. So it's kind of
okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out. Well, we are coming to the end of our time, but before I let you go, I have 3 final questions for you that we call the Thoughtful 3. So we talked about some of the challenges that you've been through as a musician. So what would you tell aspiring musicians knowing what you know now?
Oh, that's a great question. I think the most important thing in music, knowing what I know now, is don't do it for the opportunity. Don't do it for the money. Do it for the love of it. Because at the end of the day, you're going to want to be doing something that you love and that you actually care about and that you believe in way more than something that you don't care about and are like maybe making a paycheck from. I've spent a lot of time, as every musician has, like doing gigs for money. And especially as a career musician, it's like, you will have to do that. And at some point, the money, the music, and the people all meet up, but it takes a lot of time and it's like a pretty rare case. And I think for me, in a lot of what I did in the past is, I've made songs that like I'm not the most proud of, and I've maybe like played gigs with bands that like I have been like I might not put that on my resume, and it's no offense to them. It's just not personally like what I want to be doing to like promote my brand, because as a musician, like in my personal career, like I am my business kind of,
right?
And I am kind of like a freelancer, independent contractor when it comes to music. And so I am my business. And when you're starting your business, you want to make sure that you're making the right moves, especially something that has more of like a public figure vibe to it. such as what I'm doing. And like, granted, I'm not like, an influencer by any means, but like, depending on the gigs that I take, like it could be like a major career, like uplifter, or it could be career sabotage. So it's like, you got to be careful with what you do. And I think do what speaks to you, no matter what, do what speaks to you, do what you love, make the music that you love, make what you gravitate towards, and just try to be authentically you, because there's nobody else like you out there. And chances are the reason why people will call you, whether it be for gigs, whether it be to write songs, whether it be to play shows, or whatever, play with a band, like chances are the reason is because you are uniquely yourself and they're hiring you for that reason. So don't try to be somebody else. Just be you, and you're going to feel better about it at the end of the day, and everybody else is going to love you for it. And if they don't, you don't have to associate with them,
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, what characteristics do you feel have helped you become successful?
That's a great question. I feel like in general, this industry is so tough, and it's so competitive. And I talk to people a lot trying to like, I love like, for lack of a better way to put this, I do love like comparing or relating, I should say. Like I love being able to relate to people. So my sister and brother-in-law are both chefs. And lately I've been able to like talk about music the same way I view cooking. And like I kind of like am able to explain what I do to them, like in their own terms a little bit. And so I love relating to people on that front. And it's one of those things where music is so competitive, especially in a band sense. You have maybe one position open for whatever instrument that you're playing, and you have probably thousands upon thousands of people who would kill to be in that position.
Yeah.
So it gets very competitive, and it gets very hard. And at the end of the day, especially when you're on tour, you are spending day and night with these people for sometimes months at a time. You just want to be somebody that is a good hang, That's like the main part of it. Like be kind, be respectful, like be a good hang. Again, be yourself, because like you don't want to like fake like you're somebody else, and then after a month of faking somebody else, explode on somebody on the road and then be like, what happened? Who is this person? I think the key things are just be nice to people, support everybody that you know. There's a Pharrell interview where he was like, share the codes, like share your secrets, share your tricks, like be open to it. Like we're all out here trying to make something happen in this world. And it's like, it's hard enough as it is. So we might as well help each other. And I think that's the most important thing, is to just like be as helpful as you can with people. Recommend your friends for gigs. If you can't do something, don't, get into a competitive mindset and be like, well, I don't want to give them that, because they might just hire them again. If they do, that's what they wanted, and it wasn't you to begin with. So just, respect, kindness, authenticity, and just like keep a go with the flow attitude, and, just understand that things will be how they are. And I think that's just gonna, that'll carry you forward in a career that is very strange and very difficult to like continue to uphold for many years, especially.
Yeah, definitely. Well, lastly, what was the best advice that you received when you were first starting out?
Oh, that's a good question. Honestly, I think the best advice was just don't stop. Don't give up. If you love it, don't give up, just keep going. There's a lot of people out there that do. And give up, I think, is like a harsh term. I think there are a lot of people that maybe, put down the sword in order to focus on just what they would rather focus on. And I think, music is something that not everybody can do as a career. I have a lot of friends that are like, I could never be in the music industry as a career. Not enough money in there. It's so hard. It's like you wake up and this is what you do, but I love doing it as a hobby. And I totally respect that. I think that's awesome. Music is meant for everybody. Everybody should be able to dip their fingers into it or their toes into it if they want to. But I think the best advice is just, don't give up, keep going. I had my best friend, I was talking to him about music and I was just really struggling and just like, I wasn't getting a lot of gigs, wasn't making a lot of money. And I was just on the phone with him and I was like, I might need to quit, honestly. Like I might need something more lucrative so that I can like restructure my relationship with music into something that is good rather than something that like I'm frustrated over. And he goes, let me ask you this. Think of any other job out there, any just dead end, like basic job that like seems fun that like you could do and it would be like fairly easy. Maybe not dead end, but just something that like, doesn't require like your entire energy and like totally drains you. And I was like, okay, yeah. And he was like, think about that job. When you come home from that job, would you still be doing music? And I said, well, yeah, absolutely. He goes, there's your answer.
Dang.
He's like, there's your answer. He's like, if you would still be doing it no matter what, then like you might as well just do it. And I was just like, yeah, okay, you're right.
Oh my God, what a great friend.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, he's given me sage advice for years. Shout out Andy Seltzer. He's the best.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I am so excited to see what more comes into your career. You're already doing so amazing. So this is so fun getting to talk with you on like a deeper level.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, I had a blast with you. Yeah, so much fun.
Awesome.